Welcome to the Fantasy Aceball podcast. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on X at Fantasy Aceball. And we're rolling old school. We're kicking it old school today. Going back to the basics. We got my boy, Raymond Atherton, with me here. You can find him on X at Raymond Atherton. Yo, what's up, Raymond?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Excellent. Long time no see, brother.
Yeah, you never text me back.
Oh, I never text you back. Come on. You mean the other day I didn't text you back? Raymond was trying to do an emergency pod with me. Because I was like, my guest, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus here. So I was like, my guest, I don't think is going to make it. They were late. And then Raymond's like, okay, cool. I'll jump on it and we'll do a pod on this. And then I just didn't even text him back because all of a sudden my guest came in and I had to start my show. So sorry, Raymond. I love you.
No problem. I was just trying to help.
Yeah. Oh, you always do. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can watch this on YouTube on my YouTube channel, The Tim Kanak. And you can see that Raymond has changed his fanship from the University of Michigan to the University of Missouri. No, I'm joking. So Raymond's shirt is like an old school University of Michigan shirt. And not everyone has to watch because you have to figure out what we're talking about. You can't just listen. So Raymond has like an old school University of Michigan shirt, like old symbol. And I actually have a friggin' flag in my office that looks exactly like that, but it's University of Missouri. Like, it's so similar, it's scary. And I think just for reference, I'll probably post this, like a picture of my flag on X against Raymond's shirt. Yeah, I'll screenshot it just so you can see like how freaky it is that like the two symbols look exactly the same. And they've got the same block M. So it's like, okay, go figure. Raymond and I have had this lifetime argument here of our friendship, saying that who started the block M. Raymond's probably right. It's probably Michigan, but
it was definitely Michigan.
I'm just going to be a defender of my team. Like I'm just going to be a zealot for the University of Missouri.
That's what fan is, right? Fanatic.
Yeah.
Ignorantly defend your team. There's no harm in that.
Exactly. So anyway, onward and upward we go. I did go to a spring training game today, and I was going to do like a video, but I got like no good video just because I brought all my kids. My whole family was there, and I watched probably the first 2 innings in peace, and then after that, it was just all like straight up havoc during the game. But I'll just kind of reference today what I saw in the second spring game that I went to. Hunter Brown was a little rough in the first inning. Second inning, he looked really sharp. Mason Wynn looked pretty decent, except he tried to steal base and got caught stealing. And I actually got video of me saying he's going to try to steal this base, and then he got thrown out. And then Jordan Walker struck out 3 times in a row and looked pretty terrible. It looks like really nothing has changed, unfortunately, for Jordan Walker. And then for Shea Whitcomb, I have seen Shea Whitcomb twice now. And he has been hitting the crap out of the ball, like hit the ball really hard. I saw he hit a home run that like went like right next to me, and I couldn't get my phone on in time because I was laying down in the outfield because I have a grass outfield, and I had like put a blanket down. I was laying down with 2 kids in my armpits, and then I was like, oh shit, that's gonna be a home run, and I couldn't get my phone out to record it in time, and it landed like 10 feet from me. And then also Isaac Paredes, of course, had a pull home run. Even in Florida, pull power is still happening. So I think like he is probably going to be in for a bigger year than like what people expect. Even though everyone is like, oh, Paredes with the Crawford boxes, I think it's actually better than what, like he might hit 30 homers with the Crawford. Like I would not even be shocked because like he had a really good game today. He looked really comfortable with the Astros. And this is in Florida where it's really hard to hit home runs because we're at sea level. And I think like he's going to the perfect stadium. And I just think that he, like when I saw him today and how well he was performing, I was just like, okay, he's going to like re-break out. Like he already broke out, but then he had a bad year last year just from moving around to teams. But I think we're going to see like a second breakout from Paredes this year, I think. What do you think, Raymond?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think he's one of my favorite, like, I don't know what his ADP is, but like in that like 140 corner infield range, he's one of my favorite later sources of power because that's always evergreen, hard to find.
Yeah. So with the Astros, Shea Whitcomb and Isaac Paredes, 2 kind of like cheap names. I think
it's Isak, by the way.
Isak. Oh, maybe.
Former Tigers prospect, Isak.
I think it depends on how Americanized he is at this point. What he's gonna go by. Hey, I'll ask him next time I see him. I've already seen the Astros twice, so
there you go.
Like, hey, Isaac, and I'll see what he turns his head
one?
for.
Yeah, which one he turns.
Yeah. So what we're doing in this podcast is we're going to be doing, and we did this last year. We're going to be playing a game. We're going to play a game, like Saw style, except no body parts are going to be removed. But we're going to be playing Keep, Redraft, Cut, which is basically our PG version of MFK. And we're going to be doing this with catcher, first base, and third base. So we're hitting catcher and the corners. And this is for Dynasty. So we're doing this not for redraft only, but this is not for just 1 year. But this is for the next 3 to 5 years. Obviously, if you're picking redraft, you're like, okay, I only want that guy for 1 year. But like when we're looking at these rankings, the way that I tiered it is for my Dynasty rankings. So when I give you tier 1, that's going to be the top 3 guys in my Dynasty rankings. But I might swap them around because if I'm playing redraft, I might actually pick my number 3 guy from my Dynasty rankings just because I think he might be better for 1 year than my number 2 guy, if that makes sense. So like when I'm giving you these tiers, this is literally my rankings of these positions. So I'm kind of giving you double info here. We're playing this fun little game that's going to help you for Dynasty and for redraft. At the same time that I'm giving you my top 25 roughly Dynasty rankings at each of these positions. And again, when I'm doing my Dynasty, I'm thinking for 3 to 5 years in the future. And I'm not thinking like, oh, this is how good they're going to be. Like Eric and Clegg just did their Crystal Ball series on Toolshed. And their Crystal Ball series is like, this is how good this is where this person is going to be in 3 years. No, this is for the next 3 years. So it actually includes each of those years, like how much value you're going to get in each of those years. So starting with catcher, tier 1, my rankings in this tier, it's William Contreras, who's 27 years old, Cal Raleigh, who's 28 years old, and then Adley Rutschman, who's 27 years old. And Raymond, I'm going to start you off here with these 3 guys. Keep 1, redraft 1, and then cut 1.
This one's really tough. I think the keep is easy. I'm going to keep Contreras. I think he's the number 1 fantasy catcher. I think I've decided that I want my catchers to be a difference maker in one way or another. And so I'm going to redraft Cal Raleigh and take the 30-plus home runs you're going to get out of that. And I'm going to cut Adley Rutschman. Like, I think Adley Rutschman is obviously excellent, but he's more of a points league standout, I would say. Like, we don't play a lot of points, but he's not a great source of power. He's not a great source of anything. He's more of an all-around kind of thing, and I'm looking for that difference maker in the first round.
I agree with you. I've got the exact same thing as you here. So Contreras, like this is by far, in my opinion, the top fantasy catcher, and he is so valuable. Like, I just saw him go in the second round of a DC.
That's crazy.
Just because this is why, Raymond, is because his value, because he has so much playing time compared to other catchers too, that it makes him way more valuable than like any other catcher. Like his spread in value is so great because like the other guys that are even there on playing time is like you got Raleigh, Rutschman, and Yanir Diaz are the only guys who are going to get as many plate appearances as Contreras. And Contreras doesn't have a hole. Like all those other guys have a hole somewhere, and he's the only guy in his game that doesn't have a hole.
And I think he's the most important to his team as well. Yeah. So that matters a lot. Like he's going to have that prime lineup spot.
For sure. Especially with Adame's gone. Like he's like the guy. I mean, the Mariners too with Raleigh. Like Raleigh is like the second best hitter on the team to J-Rod. And he's third. But the problem is he's
not a good hitter.
His batting average is going to hurt you. He's going to get the counting stats. So it's like, if you want to take the whole on batting average, like Raleigh and Contreras are actually going to probably do a little bit of a similar thing. Like Contreras is probably going to, or Raleigh might get a few more bombs, but his batting average is going to be like 60 or 70 points worse. So if you can take that batting average like that's why I like Raleigh for redraft, because like you mentioned, Rutschman is more of a points league player. and Rally is going to get just a ton of counting stats. So if you can manage to take that batting average loss, then you'll take 30 bombs and 90 something RBI from a catcher and 80 runs or whatever any day. Like that's pretty much what he did last season. And his age difference is like right there with these guys. It's not like Rutschman is like, if Rutschman was like 24 or 25 or something, then maybe, but Rutschman is 27. I think people forget how old Rutschman actually is because he's been like, he was an older prospect because he was a college guy when he was drafted. So he was an older guy when he broke into the league. He was like 24 when he broke into the league. He's 27 now. He's been around for a few years. So it's not like he's still a baby at this point. He's like in the peak, right? Like all these guys are in their peak. So I think we got the right team here. You have anything else on these guys before we move to tier 2?
I just wanted to say, like, if you want to take the 50 spot gap in ADP and take Raleigh over Contreras, I wouldn't blame you. But in Dynasty context, they're both probably pretty affordable.
Yeah, it depends too if you're doing Snake or if you're doing like auction. Because the funny thing is, like in Snake, you're right, there might be a 50 pick difference, but in auction, you could auction and Contreras might go cheaper than you might think, and then people are going to get desperate, and you could get like that's one of the funny things about auction, right? Is like Rally could go for like the same dollar value as Contreras just because someone is like, oh shit, I want a Contreras, I didn't get him, but I really want one of these catchers who's going to play. And then they'll just spend like the same thing that they would have for Contreras. So it happens in auctions. Didn't you get Contreras in Carolina? No, you got the other Contreras, right?
I got Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. So tier 2. So my number 4 catcher is Yanir Diaz, who's 26 years old. Number 5, I've got Will Smith, who's 30 years old. And then number 6, I have Logan O'Hoppe, who is 25 years old. So keep, redraft, cut Yanir Diaz, Will Smith, Logan O'Hoppe. Raymond.
I think this one's pretty easy. I'm going to keep Diaz, redraft O'Hoppe, and cut Will Smith. I just traded for Diaz in our 20-team league. Like you said about the playing time, I love that. O'Hoppe, I think he might have played too much last year, but I still like the skill set there. I actually traded for him in FAI from you.
Yes.
And then Will Smith, I just think that in real life baseball, that contract is going to look so bad. Like 10 years, $300 million or whatever it was. And he can't play DH. Ohtani's there every day. So I think the skill set is arguably the worst of this group as well. So I'm out on Smith. I think his ceiling's pretty capped, and the other guys have upside and playing time advantages.
So I'm going to go a little different from here. I'm going to do the same thing on Yanir Diaz. That's my keep. But I would take Will Smith and redraft, and then I would cut Logan O'Hoppe. Now, if this was 2 keeps, I would be keeping Diaz and O'Hoppe, right? And I'd be cutting Will Smith. But because there's a redraft factor in here, I am taking Will Smith in redraft, even at the age of 30. Because, I mean, age 30, it's not a big deal. He's still in that peak, and he does the same thing every season. And I actually traded you. I don't know if you remember, but when I traded you O'Hoppe, I traded you O'Hoppe for Will Smith.
Will Smith, yeah, actually, I had to cut so many people in that league. I couldn't tell you how I lost to.
I think Will Smith was like $3 more than O'Hoppe. So, and then we also exchanged a couple pitchers. I can't remember who the pitchers were at this point.
Albert Suarez.
Yeah, that was one of them. And then I
don't remember the other one.
You got
Chapman.
Back from you.
You got Chapman, yeah.
Yes, which actually turned out well because he might close. So Will Smith, he just does the same thing every year. If you looked at like his last 3 years, he's basically like 75, 25, 75, like every year, more or less. So I'll take that.
He hasn't hit 25 home runs in any of the last 3 years.
22, whatever. It's
20,
it's
20,
mid-20,
20.
yeah, low 20s. Okay. So the thing is, O'Hoppe probably has a higher peak than that power-wise. But for this year, the Angels also just brought in Travis d'Arnaud, who is infamously a playing time stealer. Just ask Sean Murphy how that has gone so far with the Braves, where d'Arnaud actually like took a ton of his playing time last year. So like, I think d'Arnaud is probably going to start 1 out of every 3 or 4 games, and maybe O'Hoppe gets some playing time at DH or whatever. But like, they've got Soler at DH. They've
Trout.
got Trout that they need to cycle into DH. So it's like, unless O'Hoppe gets some playing time at first base too, and they just like are like, okay, Shanwell, peace out, or like, like take a day off. I don't really know, how much playing time O'Hoppe is going to get. I think he might be limited to like 120 games or something this year, where Will Smith might get 140 or closer to 140. So like, just based on the playing time, especially since when we made that trade, it was a points league. Like, I'm definitely down for that. But I think just Will Smith, based on quantity, is going to outperform O'Hoppe for 2025.
I think the playing time's about even.
Possibly. Darno scares me. I mean, the Dodgers backup right now is Austin Barnes, who's been there forever. So I don't know. Like, they've got rushing waiting in the wings, but I'm not really concerned. I think that he's just.
I don't think he's a catcher anymore.
Yeah, I was talking with Eric Cross about that, and Eric Cross thinks he's going to be a catcher still, and he thinks that he might get some playing time, but it's just like so up in the air. The Dodgers are so weird with their prospects sometimes.
He gives me MJ Melendez vibes, and not in a good way.
The thing to remember is that the Dodgers front office is basically the former Rays front office, and the Dodgers operate like the Rays, but with a ton more money.
10 times more money.
Yeah, exactly. Way, way more money, and like the full country of Japan at their disposal. So like that's basically the difference. And so, but they treat their prospects the same way. So like, well, you can't say, oh, the Rays with their prospects, they're going to platoon them, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Look at Andy Pages. All you got to do is look at Pages from last year, and that's what's going to happen to rushing. So tier 3. And I have tier 3 is like a large tier. So our first grouping that we're going to look at is 3A, and then the next one's going to be 3B. For 3A, I have Samuel Basallo, 20 years old. Augustine Ramirez, 23 years old. So this is number 6, number 7, number 7, number 8. And then number 9 in my Dynasty rankings is Shea Langeliers, 27 years old. So we've got Basallo, 20 in the minors. Augustine Ramirez, who may break camp, maybe, with the Marlins. Just depends on how cheap they want to be. And then Shea Langeliers, who is the starter with the Athletics. So keep, redraft, cut, Raymond.
This one's tough. I'm torn between cutting Basallo and Ramirez for different reasons. Basallo, because the Orioles evidently hate prospects. And I just don't know when, where, how often he's going to play. I'm sure in the next 3 to 5 years they'll figure it out, but I guess I'll keep him just based on pedigree. Ramirez, I'll cut just because of the Marlins, and then Langeliers I'll redraft. Take that power boost. They said he might play first base. Did you see that?
Oh, but they've got Soderstrom. I guess what are they going to do? Flip flop him with Soderstrom? They still have Dick Kurtz on the way too, so we'll talk about him when we get to first base. But
yeah, I don't know. This one's tough. I like Ramirez. It's just the Marlins have been, that ballpark's a wasteland. That lineup is atrocious. He gets called up. He's what, the 3rd best hitter on that team already?
Poof, he might be the best. Like, I'm trying
I really
to
like De Los Santos
right
too.
Yeah, I like Ramirez way more than De Los Santos. His plate skills are a lot better, and he's got some speed to mix in there too. So, I mean, like, De Los Santos has a lot more power, but then again, maybe not. Ramirez just hit the ball 115 miles per hour in spring.
I saw that.
Yeah. I'm going to keep Basallo too. Like, Basallo has such a high ceiling. He's just such a good hitter, like, straight up.
He hit a bomb today too, didn't he?
Yeah, and it was like 500 feet. Like, it was insane.
Dude, the video is it's a bomb.
Yeah. So Basallo, just what he's been able to do, like, he had a 122 WRC plus as a 19-year-old in AAA last year. That's absolutely insane, age to level.
The Orioles seem to not want to play any of these guys at the major league level, and I just don't understand it. Heston Kjerstad is the same thing. Like, I love the talent. I think he's really good, but like, where's he gonna play?
It concerns me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it definitely concerns me. Like, Kobe Mayo is basically
it's not like
the again. So
it's not like the Orioles don't have a franchise player at catcher already, and a young player at first base who probably deserves more playing time in his own right.
I think ultimately, Mountcastle and O'Hearn are both going to be gone by the end by like 2026. You're gonna see Hesse Kierstad in outfield. You're gonna see Mayo probably at first base. Basayo might end up in this weird role where is it catcher, first base, DH or something. That just might be his future. Maybe he's in left field like Kyle Schwarber. Like that's my comp to him. My comp that I put in my prospect rankings is Kyle Schwarber with a better hit tool because he does have actually a really good hit tool. So like, I don't know. Remember, Schwarber was a catcher coming up too, so it's possible that he's just like too many catchers. And Schwarber came up behind Wilson Contreras, so he got stuck in out. They just moved. They're like, you're too good of a hitter. They moved him to the outfield. It's not like he was a bad catcher. They literally moved him because he's behind Contreras. So I don't know. But that might happen to Basayo. He might just be moved to the outfield or something. But when you're that good of a hitter, you're gonna break out, just like how Jackson Holiday did, right? Like Jackson Holiday passed Mayo. Mayo was ahead of him as far as like where he was at organizationally, but Jackson Holiday just passed him and now he's the starter. And Westberg did too. So it's like they're gonna play whoever kind of like makes it happen, whoever proves it. I think Basayo could do that. So I'm in the same boat as you. I'm gonna redraft Langeliers, even though I love Augustine Ramirez. I'm just hesitant that the Marlins he might not break camp with the Marlins, even though he's definitely deserves to, just because Peter Bendix, again, Ray's organization guy, he's probably going to play playing time manipulation games with him. And I think Augustine Ramirez is up most of the year because there's no reason for him to be the minors anymore. I do think that he probably is not up until they pass that Super 2 date. So just based on playing time, I'm going Langeliers. Tier 3B. In this one, I've got 4 players, so we're going to cut 2. We're making it hard. We're not keeping 2. We're not redrafting 2. We're cutting 2, baby. So in this tier, we're at catcher number 10, 11, 12, and 13 in my rankings. Number 10 is Ivan Herrera at 25 years old. Number 11 is Austin Wells at 25 years old. Number 12 is Gabriel Moreno at 25 years old. And number 13 is Tyler Stevenson at 28 years old. So keep 1, redraft 1, cut 2, Raymond.
Man, I'm afraid I'm going to feed into your ego here, and I'm going to keep Herrera. I'm going to redraft Stevenson, cut the other 2. Moreno, I think, has some of that Adley Rutschman where he's just decent at everything but doesn't really stand out. And then I don't know that I know enough about Austin Wells, but he hit like 220 last year, 13 bombs in 120 games. It's okay for a catcher, but again, not a difference maker. Yeah. There's guys I like after this more than these guys, besides Herrera. I think catchers that hit 300 are rare.
Yeah, I see. He hit 300 last year, but he also had an insane BABIP. I think he's more like a 280 hitter than a 300 hitter. That's still really good for a catcher. Yeah. The power, he actually, if he was not in St. Louis, I would think he would have over 20 home run power. Like he could be like a Will Smith type power if he was outside of St. Louis, but because he's in St. Louis, it like kind of downplays his power to like high teens, in my opinion. And also part of that is going to be based on playing time. So I'm right with you. I'm going to keep Ivan Herrera. Like I think his bat is the real deal. He might actually end up moving off the position even just based on how many catchers the Cardinals have coming up because they've still got Jimmy Crooks coming up too, who I really love also at some point. But Austin Wells, he had a really strong second half for the Yankees. Raymond dropped off here, so I'm going to keep talking. But Austin Wells had a really strong second half for the Yankees. And Moreno, I agree with Raymond that Gabriel Moreno has really good contact tool, like great batting average for Moreno, but the power is limited. And then also he has injury issues, which are a little bit concerning. So like with Moreno's injury issues and like the lack of power, like I'm cutting him. Like I would keep Wells over Moreno. And then Stevenson for redraft just has to be the way to go. He's going to be in the middle of the Reds lineup this year. Like he was hitting, I think he's projected to hit 3rd or 4th in that lineup. So he's going to be hitting behind Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain this year. Like this dude could get a ton of RBI. So I'm all in Tyler Stevenson. I actually got him in your Carolina Cup league as my backup catcher. I got Will Smith in that league and Tyler Stevenson.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I got him for like $4, like super cheap.
That's insane.
Yeah, which is awesome because basically that means that no matter what, I'm going to have a really good catcher playing for me every day. So
I'll tell you, dude, I hated one of the reasons I traded Will Smith is I hated having a catcher on the West Coast because like you don't know when games lock if he's playing or not. So like one of the reasons I like O'Hoppe, I sound like a hypocrite,
he's
is
also on
like,
the West Coast. He's in the
but
same city.
but Travis d'Arnaud is good enough that like if you just get them both, and I guess if you're listening and you're in FAI and you want to fuck me over, go ahead and pay too much money for Travis d'Arnaud. But that's my whole strategy at catcher in that league is just be all in on the Angels catcher position for like 16 total dollars or less even.
That's a pretty good idea. I actually really like that. That's a good strategy. I never even thought of that. I might have kept O'Hoppe if I thought of that. I was like,
he's good enough.
I'm so afraid of d'Arnaud that I've got to trade O'Hoppe, and then I could have just easily.
You could have just picked up O'Hoppe.
Yeah. Raymond, you got me again. So next we've got tier number 4A. In this tier, it's a 3-man tier. We've got Sean Murphy at 30 years old, Wilson Contreras at 33 years old, and then Bo Naylor at 25 years old. Keep, cut, redraft.
This is kind of tough. I love Wilson Contreras for this year, so I guess that makes him the redraft because he's catcher eligible, but he's going to play every day at first base. So cue up that playing time conversation we were having earlier. But the ADP is a lot more friendly with Contreras. So I love him. I'm going to try and get him anywhere I can. People are going to point out the injury stuff, but he broke his wrist on the follow through from a swing. And I was actually talking to Steven about this from NLI today. Like, you can't get hurt with a baseball bat at first base.
Mm-hmm.
So I like him a lot. And then just the keep out of this group is tough because Sean Murphy's old and has had some weird issues since he got to Atlanta. And Bo Naylor kind of underwhelmed pretty hard, but I'll keep Bo Naylor and hope the bat catches up. He gives you a little bit of speed at the catcher position too, which is kind of rare. And I think the Guardians need him to be a little bit better this year.
Yeah.
And then I'll cut Sean Murphy, I guess.
I think I'm doing the same thing as you here. I'm going to comment though on Wilson Contreras that apparently the Cardinals, they want Alec Burleson to also be playing first base. So you might have like a really stupid Cardinals first base platoon between Burleson and Contreras.
I'm not worried about it. He's like
so
he's one of their best hitters.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect 150 games from Contreras. I do think he'll probably play like 135, 140. So he's going to be up there with like, games played with those other catchers we were talking about. So like, not to diminish, that he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he is, and I agree that the injury was kind of odd. It's not like it's going to reoccur again, but I do think that the playing time, I doubt it's going to be like a Paul Goldschmidt 160 games or whatever.
Right.
Bo Naylor, though, I agree. I think there's a bounce back coming for him. His plate skills have always been really good. The contact tool has been a bit behind for him, but he's always had plate skills, power, and speed. And he, in the end of 2023, had such a good end of the season. And I think last year was just, I don't know what it was. They traded Josh, his brother. Maybe maybe his brother was a bad influence on him, and that's why they wanted to trade. Like, who?
No, they trade everyone before they get to free agency.
It's true, but like I don't know. It might be better now that he's by himself though, because now he can be his own man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I just think from like, as being the younger brother, do you really want your older brother on the same team as you? Unless you're like best buds and you really love each other. Like, I don't know. My relationship with my younger brother, like we would be best friends and then we would also fight all the time. So like, do you really want that in a clubhouse?
I was just going to say, unless the younger brother is clearly the better player, like Parker Meadows, Austin Meadows, like, but
yeah. Well, yeah. Kyle Tucker and Preston Tucker are on the same team too. And it's just like one guy is like significantly better than the other. So it's just like, I don't know. I just think that it might be actually a good thing. I mean, the hope, that's the positive part of me. That's the glass half full part of me talking here. So tier 4B, we're going to cut to again. We've got Keibert Ruiz at 26 years old, Francisco Alvarez at 23 years old, Salvi Perez at 35, and JT Realmuto at 34. So cut 2, redraft 1, keep 1.
I'm going to keep Alvarez. I think he had like a hand or a thumb issue, I think, that I heard that affected him swinging last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's still only 23. The hit tool maybe needs some work, but the power is legit. Good lineup. This one's tough. I think I'm gonna redraft Salvi as long as he's playing 155 games and kind of had a resurgence last year. Like, it's tough between him and Realmuto. But then Realmuto's had some injuries last year, the last few years, and Kyber Ruiz, I think, is just that same. He's a better real life player than he is a fantasy player, and he's just kind of okay at everything. So I'll cut Realmuto and Ruiz.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm on the same page as you on this one too. I'm keeping Alvarez, even though like I'm not his biggest fan, and the contact tool does concern me. But like if he gets full-time run, even though the contact tool is concerning, his upside, even if he never fixes the hit tool, is still a Shea Langoliers or Cal Raleigh, who we were drafting much higher, as long as he gets the playing time, especially with those, like Juan Soto is going to be in front of him in the lineup now. Like they have a much better lineup. So, yeah, I'm definitely, and he's still only 23. Like it's insane how young he was when he came up. So yeah, I think Alvarez is the keep here. And I'm redrafting Salvi. I'm on the same page as you. This might be the first year that I would ever redraft Salvi over like JT Realmuto. But I think that Realmuto has just declined at a greater rate. Like they were at a point where like a couple of years ago, Realmuto had this nice power speed combo, like great average, Phillies lineup, all this stuff going for him. And then the last couple of years, you've just kind of seen a pretty decent slide where Salvi has more or less been level. Like he's gotten a little bit worse, but he hasn't gone down in the same, aging curve track as Realmuto. So it's like, even though Salvi is a year older than Realmuto, I almost feel like on like an aging curve, he's younger just because like he hasn't declined at the same rate, if that makes sense. Like in his aging curve as a player, like he's younger in the decline phase, whereas Realmuto is like at about the end. Realmuto might have like 2 years left where he's startable, and then he just is not even. The Phillies can't even start him anymore after that. Whereas like Salvi, I feel like he's going to just be one of these guys that could play to be 40 or whatever. If he like, he'd play until he's 38, 39, 40 if he wants, and just be like Big Poppy and hang around and do some fun
Hall
stuff.
of Famers age differently. That's what I was going to say. Like, and JT Realmuto, I feel like he has such good name value, but like, now that you don't get the like 23 16 steals, 22 21 steals, 21 13 steals, now that you're not getting that from him, like he played 99 games and hit 14 home runs last year. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of name value there still, but the production doesn't back it up.
Worth it.
What's that?
I said the 8 steals or whatever ain't worth it.
I think he had 2 last year. 5?
Yeah.
No, he had 2 steals last year.
That's terrible. Yeah, that's nothing. It's just get rid of that guy. You don't even want to. Yeah, take all these tier 5 guys over. No, I'm joking. So we got the next tier 5A. So we got 5A and 5B coming up. These are both 4-man tiers. Tier 5A, we're gonna cut 2. We've got Kyle Teal 23, Dalton Rushing 24, Ryan Jeffers 28, and Drake Baldwin 24. So we've got 3 prospects and 1 starter for the Twins. What are you doing here with this group?
You know how I feel about catching prospects. It's just so much harder for them to break in. They have so much to do defensively with pitching that it's so much harder to crack the roster. That being said, I'm definitely going to cut Rushing. I think unless he gets traded, that's like a Michael Busch scenario. He's going to get traded at 26 or whatever and finally be on a new team that lets him play. Drake Baldwin, I might keep. It seems like they're handing the keys over to him a little bit. Like maybe not necessarily this year, but 3 to 5. Like I mentioned, Sean Murphy's had some issues, so I think I'll keep Baldwin and cut Teal and Jeffers. I have Jeffers as my starting catcher in a 14-team league, and it's not fun. I'm not going to be honest.
Who are you
Um,
redrafting? You're gonna cut them all? And
Oh
just
no,
keep all of it?
I'll
Yeah,
I'll
redraft them.
redraft Baldwin, I guess. But he's just a backup.
But then
Okay,
who are you keeping?
I'll redraft Jeffers. I'll redraft Jeffers.
Okay.
Cause like
So
I want to amend my like catcher take because being one of the best hitters on a terrible team as a catcher, I think like Kyle Teal might just make it because he's not terrible.
mhm. So in this group here, I'm redrafting Jeffers as well, even though like I do think Drake Baldwin gets the same number of plate appearances. Maybe not the same, but I bet he plays like 1 out of every 3 games for the Braves. For whatever reason, ever since the Braves got Sean Murphy, they have not wanted to give him full-time run. When he was with the Athletics, he was starting like 150 games. The
Yeah,
Braves have never done that with him. So
dude. Okay,
I think Baldwin starts like a third of the games this year from the get. I think he's up opening day, like from the get.
he played 148 games, literally the last year he was in Oakland. Other than that, his career high is 119.
Yeah. So based on this, I still take Jeffers redraft because he's a starting catcher with the Twins, and he
Right.
does have 20 homer power upside. So like I'll take that over a guy who's not going to have full-time playing time in redraft. Now, when it comes to keepers, I'm going to keep Kyle Till here. I like Rushing's potential actually better than Teal's, and I think I have them ranked very closely in my prospect rankings. But the problem is, as you mentioned, he's trapped on the Dodgers. I just don't know how he's going to play. The White Sox traded for Kyle Teal. They traded Garrett Crochet to get Kyle Teal. They acquired him for a reason. They're not going to trade for that guy and then not play him. I think that Kyle Teal is actually going to be moving around the diamond. I think because he's a pretty athletic guy. I think that the White Sox plan is for Edgar Caro to be the number 1 catcher and for Teal to be the number 2 catcher / like moving around the diamond and being maybe like, kind of like what the Pirates really wanted to do with Henry Davis, but Henry Davis sucked, so they couldn't do it.
Connor Wong with the
Yeah,
Red Sox playing some second base.
Yeah, I maybe not second, but I think he plays in the outfield, and I think that Kyle Teal is actually going to get a ton of plate appearances as a catcher-eligible player, and he's to be very valuable for dynasty leagues. Like I think he could be a 260 to 280 hitter who hits 15 to 20 bombs and a lot of doubles. Like he has a really good hit tool, and he has a really good gap power tool. Like he's a big-time doubles guy for a catcher. So I think that like that's going to be very valuable. He's going to drive in a lot of runs. Like can you like he's not, I'm trying to think of like a good comparison for him. Like it's almost like what Endy Rodriguez was supposed to be. Like I think like he's gonna have a good hit tool and he's gonna be moving around a little
Ian
bit.
Kinsler.
Ian Kinsler. He's not gonna have that kind of speed. But take away the speed, maybe I guess. But I like him. So that's who I'm keeping. Tier 5B to round out the catchers, then we're gonna go to first base. We've got Patrick Bailey, 26 years old. Edgar Caro, 22 years old. Moises Ballesteros, 21 years old. Gabe's hero. And Adrian Del Castillo, 25 years old. So cut 2, keep 1, redraft 1.
I will redraft Bailey just because he's the only one that's actually making playing time in the MLB. And then I think I'm going to keep Caro. Like you said, I think he's the best of their trio of catching prospects. I also wanted to say, I think the reason the White Sox traded for Teal is because the Red Sox said they couldn't have any of the big 3. Like they just took the best of what was left.
They also got Braden Montgomery though. I think that if the White Sox had asked for Marcelo Mayer and then not taken Braden Montgomery as well and took a lesser secondary prospect, then they would have been able to get Mayer. I doubt they could have gotten Roman Anthony or Christian Campbell, but I think they could have gotten Mayer if they didn't take Braden Montgomery as like the second guy, because Braden Montgomery is also awesome. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
But
so who are you You're redrafting?
I'm redrafting Bailey, keeping Caro. I do really like Adrian Del Castillo. I want to see what he can do with more playing time, but he might be that just pretty good at a lot of stuff and doesn't actually stand out in fantasy type.
I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to throw you a curveball here. First, Adrian Del Castillo might actually get a decent amount of playing time this year because he could get like some DH time. The Diamondbacks now that Jock Peterson is not there anymore, don't really have a DH. Now, it could be taken by like Josh Naylor / Suarez if Jordan Lawler breaks camp. So that might be a non-factor. But Castillo could get some DH reps as well as like backup catcher because he does have a pretty good bat. But anyway, I'm going to redraft Edgar Caro, and I'm going to keep Moises Ballesteros because I think Ballesteros ends up getting moved to some sort of DH/catcher role because the bat is so good. He's a weird guy. Like he just like I make fun of Gabe all
He's
the
a
time.
bowling ball.
He's got the weirdest frame in the minor leagues. But Edgar Caro, I think, is actually going to break camp this year and start the majority of the games for catcher. I think he's like way better than Corey Lee already. And the White Sox pitchers all already know him because he came up with the White Sox pitchers. So I think that they're going to want Caro to catch for the pitchers that were throwing to him in the minors. And they're just promoting all these guys as a big lob up to the White Sox at the same time. And I think he's going to play a lot. And the White Sox have a far superior stadium to hit in than San Francisco. And I think Caro ultimately is a better hitter than Bailey. Maybe not like 1-to-1 right now because Bailey is more advanced. Like he's closer to his peak age. But I think that Caro has a better hit tool naturally than Bailey. And I think that because of the stadium, he might end up hitting for more homers as well than Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey's ballpark is tough.
Yeah, unless you have prodigious Bryce Eldridge power. Speaking of which,
or Helio Ramos.
Speaking of which, going to first base, we're going to go to Tier 1A for first base now. So first base, we have Vlad Guerrero Jr., 26 years old, Bryce Harper, 31, and Matt Olson, 31 in Tier 1A. Go ahead, Raymond. Make my day.
Yeah, I think the keep here is obvious. One of these guys is 5 years younger than the other two and is currently a first-round pick. The other two are not. The redraft, I think, is a little tougher. Harper and Olson both had their warts last year, but I think I'll take Olson. That 45 homer power is hard to find. Like, I love Bryce Harper. I've loved him since he was 19. But I'll take Olson over Harper in redraft and reluctantly cut Harper.
Interesting. I'm going keep Vlad, redraft Harper, and cut Olson. I just think that, like, well, Harper has injury issues and, like, they're not Trout-ish. You know what I mean? Like, they're still manageable. They're still useful. Even if he misses 20 games, he's still so good that it doesn't really matter that much in the end of the, at the end of the season for your fantasy team. He's still at worst a round 2 player. Matt Olson has
a ton.
Yeah. Matt Olson has some contact issues that are concerning. So, and he's getting older. So
Wow.
I would bet more on basically my bet is I'm betting more on Bryce Harper staying healthy and producing than Matt Olson's hit tool not regressing, basically.
I never would have guessed Bryce Harper hit more home runs than Matt Olson last year. Okay, I changed my mind. I'm taking more.
There we go.
Walks more, hits more. 7 steals isn't terrible.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's going to keep going down. He was a 20 steal guy at one point, but tier
0.
1.
Matt Olson is a 0.
0, yeah, exactly. Tier 1B, we've got Pete Alonso, 30 years old, Freddie Freeman, 35 years old, and then Nick Kurtz, 22 years old. Keep redraft cut.
I'm gonna keep Kurtz. That one's pretty obvious. Even a bigger age gap than the last year. They're talking about being really aggressive with him too, so hopefully he's up pretty soon. And then if I'm talking about who I'm more likely going to redraft, it would be Freddie Freeman. I've never been a huge Pete Alonso guy. And I don't tweet a lot of my own thoughts very often, but one of the ones I did recently is I think I'm going to fade these guys that have had like tumultuous off seasons, like Bregman and Alonso. Like just the contract negotiations and all that stuff. Like I don't have any data to back this up, but it just seems like those guys that have bad off seasons have a bad first season with their new team. So I'm going to take Freeman. Did you see that news about his ankle though?
No, I didn't.
He said he's going to have to manage it through probably the All-Star break. And if they play a day game after a night game, he'll probably sit out.
Ooh. Well, at least they're so loaded that if he misses a day a week, it's not that bad. He's good
Right,
enough.
and maybe he'll
Enough.
DH instead of play the field, and Muncy will shift over to first or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that way, he's not on his feet for 9 innings and just 2 at bat. So
Yeah.
yeah, if
I
he
mean,
falls outside the second round, I'm gonna scoop up him anywhere I can.
I'm on the same page as you here. Like Freddie Freeman, first off, you want as much exposure to the Dodgers lineup as you can possibly get. So you're getting exposure to the Dodgers lineup. Plus, he's probably going to hit 290 with 25 bombs. So if you can get that, plus top of the lineup exposure to the Dodgers lineup, even if he only plays 145 games, well worth it in my opinion. Pete Alonso could hit 40 homers, but he could also hit 220. So it's like you know, you could be getting like a better version of Max Muncy or something, I guess, at first. Like I would much rather take Freeman because he's a known quantity. You pretty much know what you're going to get. He's one of the more consistent guys in baseball. And then Nick Kurtz, I love this dude. I think he's a stud. I've mentioned that on a previous podcast that I think he's basically like the Wyatt Langford of this year, but at first base. Well, I don't know if he'll break camp. I think that he's probably up sometime by like the middle of May. And when he's up, I think he could be like basically putting up Christian Walker stats straight from the beginning because that's how good he is. So I love Nick Kurtz. Tier 2, because that was tier 1B. We had tier 1A and tier 1B. Tier 2, we're going to cut 2. This is a 4-man tier. We've got Tristan Casas at 25 years old, Christian Walker at 34 years old, Mark Vientos at 25 years old, and then Bryce Eldridge at 20 years old. This one's going to be a little tougher. So far, some of the keeps have been pretty easy, I feel like. But I feel like this one is really interesting and kind of a tougher tier for keeps because we have 3 young guys here.
Yeah, this one is pretty tough. I think I'm going to keep Eldridge, though. That might be the mystery box talking. Casas and Vientos have been. We've seen them in the majors already. I'm definitely going to cut Walker. He's great, don't get me wrong. He should be good in Houston, too. I just love Casas so much. I think I'm going to redraft Casas. Cut Walker, cut Vientos, keep Eldridge. This is tough, though. I love Casas. I just got him in the new league I started. I had to pay for him, too. I think it was like $20.
Yeah, I'm keeping Eldridge. I just think that there's such insane upside here with Eldridge. You could basically be getting like a younger like buy-in on Matt Olson because Matt Olson, if you remember, didn't really break out until he was like 26. Eldridge is very similar to Matt Olson, except he's going to be doing that at like a much younger age. So it's basically like getting in on the entry floor of a Matt Olson who is going to have a few extra years of his career than what Matt Olson had. Yeah, it's in San Francisco, so that hurts a little bit. But remember, Matt Olson also started his career in Oakland, and the power is so good for a guy like that they're gonna hit it out no matter where they're at. So I'm definitely keeping Eldridge, and then I'm redrafting Christian Walker because I think Christian
Crawford
Walker
boxes.
he's one of the more underrated hitters in baseball. He's got the Crawford boxes. And then even with the Astros losing Bregman and Kyle Tucker, that's still a really good lineup. They've still got Altuve and Jordan. Like, that's
it's
still
a
a
good
really
top
lineup.
like 5 or 6. 7,
And
8, 9 is bad.
Well, that's why Altuve had to move to the outfield because the outfield is atrocious.
That's another that's another one of my original tweets I've had is like I love how everyone's like the Astros can't go into the season with this outfield, and they're like, oh, Altuve is an outfielder now.
Yeah. Well, I guess if Jordan can't play there, someone's got to. It's like just move everyone out there. The funny thing too is all their good prospects are also not outfielders except for Melton. So it's like,
well, they said Zach DeZenzo is going to play some outfield. I think he'll be up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he should. I saw him and Shea Whitcomb, and I'm telling you, I really like Shea Whitcomb. I think he's gonna have a year. Like he was up last year at the end of the year, and he really didn't do anything. But like I've seen some hard hits from Shea Whitcomb, so I think that's a guy to watch for this year. But anyway, next tier. Moving to the next tier, we have Tier 3A, cut 2, redraft 2. This is a 5-man tier. Got a big tier here. So we've got Cody Bellinger at 29 years old, Josh Naylor at 28 years old, Jack Caglione at 22 years old, Jake Berger at 29 years old, and Spencer Steer at 27 years old. So 5 dudes here. What are you doing, Raymond?
I just had to type the letters in so I don't forget, because that 5th dude makes this exercise a little bit harder. I'm going to cut Bellinger. The injuries, and I've never been a Bellinger guy. Like, maybe he hits 30 home runs in that ballpark. Maybe he stays healthy, but I'm not convinced. Josh Naylor, I'm going to redraft. Even going to the worst ballpark in Arizona, I like that lineup. The playing time's going to be there. I think he's a standout RBI contributor, which is hard to quantify in general, but is also hard to find. And I like his ADP. I think he's a good value at first base. Keep Jack Caglione. He should be really good. I obviously don't have to tell you that. I'm going to redraft Jake Berger. I like the move to Houston. Better lineup. I think he's right in that Isaac Paredes tier where you could get cheap 30 homer upside. And then I'm going to cut Spencer Steer. He's still not throwing this year.
Yeah.
And I think his biggest asset is playing time in his ballpark. And if the shoulder contributes to that, and then if he gets squeezed out on playing time, I think if he gets traded, his magic trick runs out.
Do you think he'd still play first if he's not throwing? If he can underhand toss it, it's like if you're a first baseman, the only time you need to throw is if you're turning a double play. So like if the ball comes to you, can't you just step on first and then like underhand toss to the pitcher so that the pitcher can try to fireball it in a second? I mean, I'm just trying to think of a way to get him in the lineup. But
the good news is he could still DH. Like if he can swing, he could DH, and they can just put CES at first and Candelario at third.
Yeah, true. So I might surprise you on this one. I'm actually going to keep Josh Naylor because
I love that.
I really love Josh Naylor going to the Diamondbacks. I think
he's a free agent, though.
I think that though the Diamondbacks, when they trade for someone, they tend to keep them from what we've seen in the past. Right? They traded for Gurriel, they kept Gurriel. They traded for Ketel Marte, they kept Marte. So I think that kind of tradition shows us that this is a guy that they're probably interested in trying to keep, because they didn't go out and sign Christian Walker. Like if they really wanted, I feel like what's the point of trading for a 1-year guy if you're not going to try to re-sign him? And I think he's going to have so much fun. like Gurriel with the freaking purple hair and Ketel. I think these dudes in Naylor are just going to have a ball. I think these guys are all just going to it's going to be a party. I think this is going to be a really fun team to watch. And I think Naylor's going to fit right in, because Naylor is a dude who is down to he is a dude who's down to have a good time. You know what I mean? He's always doing celebrations and goofing around and that kind of shit. So I think he's gonna have a good time with that team. He's gonna want to stay. So I'm keeping Josh Naylor, and I'm gonna redraft Cody Bellinger, and I'm gonna redraft Jake Berger, and then I'm gonna cut Cags. Even though I like Cags, I just think that there's so much volatility there, and then Josh Naylor is just super safe. Even though he's 28. I'll take Josh Naylor for 3 to 5 years at 28, especially if he sticks with Diamondbacks in the middle of that really good lineup.
33, yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep that.
You get 1 year on the other side of the 32.
Yeah, Cag's just more volatile. I'm going to bet on Josh Naylor. It's a safer profile. And then Bellinger and Berger are the redraft. Bellinger in New York, that is, if he's going to perform to the ultimate and ever get to that, what he did a couple of years ago, the Cubs was pretty good. But if he's ever going to get to a Dodgers year again, when he was in his prime, it's going to be on the Yankees, where that ballpark is perfect for him. His dad pitched for the Yankees, so I think he's going to want to play well for them because his dad was there. So I just think that Bellinger is going to have a really nice season this year, as long as he can stay healthy. And then Jake Berger is just power in the middle of that Rangers lineup. I'll take that. I trust. Josh Young's probably going to get hurt again. Berger's going to probably be hitting right behind Langford. So I think he's going to get a ton of RBI and home runs. So I'm going Burger for redraft. Steer, like I said, is just, we've talked about it before. He's just very ballpark dependent. I think he's a good counting stats contributor just because like where he's playing and like where he hits in that lineup. So I think he's still going to get a decent amount of counting stats, but like there's not really any one skill that stands out for Steer. He's just kind of like, okay, he's pretty decent across the board. And there's not like that one tool like Burger's power.
And he hit 225 last year. I know that's not
very true. Yeah, he has 260 BABIP or whatever. So maybe a little. He should be like a 250 hitter, like should be. Anyway, tier 3B. This is going to be a 4-man tier. We're going to cut 2. We've got Alec Burleson as a 26-year-old, Nathaniel now, very proper, at 29 years old, Spencer Torkelson at 25 years old, and Luis Arias at 28 years old. Like, it's so hard to be all the way out on Torque, I feel like, because there's still so much upside there. Even, like, though he's, like, Colt Keith is going to be at first, so it's like, what's he going to do? Like, Tigers fan, you tell me. But I don't know. This is an interesting tier. What are you doing on this one?
Yeah, my first thought is he's kind of too high to be in this tier, but I guess he, like, scrapped his swing. Like, he went back to the swing he had in college, and he's just kind of like going on vibes this year. He got roasted for like a session he had in the media where he's like, I don't watch video. I was the first overall pick. Like, I'm good at baseball. And like I kind of respect it, but there's just a hole in that swing. And like 2 years ago I don't remember who we had on the pod, but they were just saying he can't hit, was it Welsh who said he can't hit low fastballs?
Mm-hmm.
And like
Yeah.
he just gotten exposed. And so I think it's hard to trust, but like I absolutely would take him with one of my last picks in a lot of leagues. But for this exercise, I'm going to cut him and probably Arias, unless your draft build is just you need safe batting average, then that's the only time I would be okay with rostering Arias all year.
Mm-hmm.
But I will I'll keep Burleson and redraft low, cut the other two. Is it low, Lau? Whichever one.
He's a low. He's not a Lau.
Okay.
I think. Wait, yeah. Brandon Lau, Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Lowe. He's Josh Lowe's older brother.
Right.
Yep. This is actually an interesting tier because I feel like Lowe
It's
and
tough,
Burleson.
man.
Yeah, I feel like Lowe and Burleson are very similar players.
I didn't really want to keep anyone.
Yeah. Unless you're in a points league, then maybe you'll keep your eyes at the right place. But like, yeah, what I'm doing in this tier is I'm probably keeping Burleson just because of the age, and he's, I don't think there's that much more upside than what he did last year. I feel like his upside is 270 with 20 homers. Like that's
but he plays
like
2 positions
70 or something. Yeah.
He's useful. Like
Yeah,
the Cardinals obviously like him enough to get him in the lineup. So
yeah. So I guess I'm keeping Burleson, and then redraft. Probably gonna go for this year. Yeah, it's just tough. Like Rise is such a build based guy, but like batting average kind of is hard to get. I'm gonna actually keep Arias, I think, for redraft and just use him to pad my. If you're in a regular Roto league, I'm picking Arias. If you're in an OBP league or something, then I'm picking Lowe as my redraft guy. So I'll just use that that little preamble or whatever. But I guess I'll go with Arias for redraft just because that batting average, like it really helps to have a 330 batting average guy in your lineup because then you can take more risks. You could draft a Cal Raleigh. Then you can draft a Max Muncy or a Pete Alonso, and it's not going to completely kill you. So I guess that's what I'm doing in this. And even though I like Lowe, I think he's really underrated. I actually wrote an article for Fantasy Pros, and that was like my most underrated first baseman just because he's supposed to hit like 4th in the Nationals lineup this year behind frickin' James Wood and Dylan Cruz. Like this dude's going to get a ton of RBI, I think, as long as he's healthy this year, even though he'll probably only hit 20 homers. He'll hit 260, 20 bombs, and he could get 100 RBI with those guys hitting in front of him. So next tier 4. This is going to be a cut 2. We've got Michael Bush at 27 years old, Vinny Pasquantino at 27 years old, Tyler Black at 24 years old, and Tyler Soderstrom at 23 years old. Two Tylers. What are you doing here?
This is tough. I think I'm gonna keep Pasquatch and redraft Michael Bush. Like I would love to keep both of them. I think Bush might have some left on left issues that kind of cap his ceiling. Pasquantino, great eye, gets on base a lot. Like I think there's some. I think the power is capped just based on Kaufman and the other ballparks in the Central, but he could hit 30 home runs. And then I love Tyler Black, but he hasn't shown a lot in his stints in the majors, and I don't know if the Brewers have a spot for him. And then I'm going to cut Soderstrom.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on this one. Keep Pasquantino, redraft Bush, cut Black and Soderstrom. Black just like if Black could play second base because he's so bad defensively, I would really like him, but he's stuck at first. Kind of a weird profile for first. It's like a Nolan Chanwell situation here, which, he could be good. It's just like Rhys Hoskins is there too. So I don't really know what they want to do with that. And then Soderstrom, I think I like more as a catcher. Like I would like him more as like a catcher 2. If you're in like one of those NFBC leagues, that's like a catcher 2 guy I want. I don't think I really want him long term as a first baseman. He has really good power, but that hit tool, I don't know if that's ever going to play. So, like he might like his max batting average might be like 240 or 250 because his hit tool is pretty bad.
That's
like he's
250 might be a stretch.
Yeah, he's probably a regular 220 guy. So like, yeah, I'm cutting Soderstrom. Even if he can get to 25 or 30 bombs, especially in that minor league stadium, just like bad batting average. Tier 5B, this is a cut 2. We've got 37-year-old Paul Goldschmidt. We got Hessen Kierstad, 26, Spencer Horwitz, 27, who's hurt right now for the Pirates, and then Kyle Manzardo, 24. This is a pretty interesting one, I think, because there's some interesting keeps here that you could have. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I really like Kierstad. I just don't trust the Orioles. Like roster resource has him on the bench currently, but I don't know that that's good for anyone involved if he's just playing part-time, but who knows. I'm gonna cut Goldschmidt. I've been anti-Goldschmidt for like the last 7 years, and like I was wrong for a lot of that, but a lot of the metrics say that he's finally aging. So why change? I'll be wrong again. I'm sure he'll be fine. Hit 35 home runs. Might get an MVP vote. Who knows? I'm going to keep Manzardo. I wish the Guardians didn't sign a first baseman, though. Like, that would make me feel a lot better about Manzardo.
Yeah.
I might keep Kierstad, dude. Just hope the Orioles let him play at some point. I'll keep Kierstad, redraft Manzardo, and cut Horowitz. I do like Horowitz too, though. I just think his ceiling's not as high as the other guys.
You're crazy, man. I'm keeping Manzardo. I think he's got the highest ceiling. Kierstad's ceiling, I think, like I've said it a lot, I think his ceiling is like Jock Peterson. I think he's a platoon.
Never plays against lefties.
Yeah, I think he's just a platoon bat forever. Kyle Manzardo has the highest ceiling, in my opinion. So I'm keeping Manzardo, and then I'm going to redraft Goldie. I actually like Goldie this year with the Yankees. I think he's going to have a pretty strong year, like counting stats wise. He's going to have a Spencer Steer year. That's what he's going to do. He's going to be the Spencer Steer of the Yankees lineup.
I would expect him to hit for more power and more average than Steer.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sure. Probably 25. Lock for 25 and 250 or 260.
This is why, dude, like he's just I hate Goldschmidt and then he does good. Like it never changed, Paul. Like we'll do this again next year.
All right, to third base. Here we go. Third base, tier number 1. Jose Ramirez, 32 years old. Rafael Devers, 28 years old. Junior Caminero, 21 years old. That's 1, 2, and 3.
Jeez, dude, this is a loaded tier. I'm gonna keep Caminero, redraft Ramirez, and cut Devers. Between the between the bad vibes and the shoulder injuries, like I mean, you're splitting. What does DVR say all the time? You're picking nits. Like these guys are all studs. Like Devers is 28. He signed to a huge contract. Like I mean, he had injuries in both his shoulders last year, I think, and then like he's still working off to the side. Like he's progressing through his shoulder injuries. Like that's not taken care of yet. So that's just, I mean, that's enough to be a tiebreaker for me.
Yeah. I think Jose Ramirez is the obvious redraft guy here because I don't know if you
40 last year.
Yeah, I don't know if you want him as a 36-year-old or whatever, because who knows where his speed's going to be at that point. But as far as like between Devers and Caminero for keep, it's pretty hard because like you hope Caminero can basically do what Devers is doing right now, right? But the spread here is the age. You're like, okay, if Caminero can do what Devers is doing, but he's younger and I get more years of that, there's your win. But can Caminero get to what Devers is doing? That is the question.
Right.
I'm going to bet on it. So I agree with you. I'm going to keep Caminero, but it's a risky bet. Like if someone said they'd rather keep Devers at age 28 for the next 3 to 5 years over Caminero at age 21, I'd be like, okay, you do you.
Right. I mean, you're still
definitely
talking
safer. It's definitely safer, but like I think Caminero is kind of like a bank prospect. Like this is a guy. He's not a prospect anymore, but I think he's just one of these guys that's he's such a natural hitting and power talent like that. I don't think he can lose unless he goes to the Dominican Republic and finds a 13-year-old girlfriend.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, like I said, when you're talking about this high of a tier, like that's just, I think this has been the hardest tier one we've talked about so far. Like you have to find something to be a tiebreaker. And for me, it's just, even without the Alex Cora saying like, yeah, dude, the dude who told you you're a third baseman doesn't work here anymore. Like, the shoulders are still a concern. Like that was all, like it was at least the entire second half last year. It might have even been longer than that last year. He was dealing with that. So, I mean, he still put up good numbers, but it's enough to make the difference for me.
Yeah, agreed. Tier 2, we have Jazz Chisholm Jr., 27 years old, Austin Riley, 28, and Royce Lewis, 26. This is another tough one.
Yeah,
what are you going to do in this one?
Man, I want to redraft too. I guess I'm gonna keep Riley, and then I will redraft Jazz and cut Royce Lewis. It's just I don't trust Royce Lewis to stay healthy, even remotely, like even more than Jazz. And Jazz has triple eligibility. Austin Riley could hit 40 home runs. I mean, Royce Lewis has taken 3 years to play 160 games, I think. Like, that's tough.
So, I'm going a
I know
different route.
I know you love Royce Lewis.
I'm going a different route than you. I'm keeping Jazz because Jazz in New York with the power speed is just too much fun. Multi-position eligibility as well.
Might pick up second.
As long as he can stay healthy, like he is one of the best players in baseball. Like he's one of the best, most fun players in baseball. As long as he can stay healthy, like Jazz is, to me, like this is the thing. Everyone thinks Fernando Tatis Jr. is so much better than Jazz, but I don't know about that. Like I think Jazz is like the East Coast version of Tatis. To be honest, like he's an East Coast Tatis, man. But
I can see that comp.
Yeah. But like I think he's much closer as like in quality of player to Fernando Tatis as people would think once you actually like dig down into it and you're like, oh, you're kind of right. Even the injuries and everything.
The injuries, right?
The position changes everything. So anyway, I'm gonna keep Jazz. I'm going to redraft Royce Lewis and I'm gonna cut Austin Riley. I think Royce Lewis is in for a killer year this year. I believe that he like just got married and has a kid or something on the way. And I like was reading something about it the other day, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm feeling way better this year. Like He was like everyone says it. It's a spring training article, best shooter of your life, whatever. But like for Royce Lewis, like at the beginning of the year last year, he was like the best player in baseball, and then the second half was atrocious. So like I just think that it's like he's done it before. He's been so good before. And his upside is much higher than Austin Riley's because I think Royce Lewis is just his upside. Royce Lewis's upside is a first round player. Austin Riley doesn't have that upside. So I'm gonna
Jazz's upside is a first rounder too.
Yeah, it is for sure. That's why I'm keeping Jazz, but I'm redrafting Royce and cutting Austin Riley.
I just the injuries are enough to bump the other two for me. Like I don't know. I'm usually pretty I don't know how to say anti-risk averse, but like I'm usually the guy who's shooting for nothing but upside. Yeah, right.
I'm pretty risky.
Risque.
Risque.
But I just love Austin Riley. I've never been able to quit him. Perfect third round pick in my mind.
Braves are your 8th team, so like second team, your top team or whatever. Yeah. So tier 3A, this is another fun one. We've got Jordan Westberg, 26 years old, Matt Shaw, 23 years old, and then Manny Machado, 32 years old. Third base is just rough. But what are you doing on third base here for 3A?
I'm going to keep Westberg. I'm going to redraft Machado, and I'm going to cut Matt Shaw.
Oh, cutting Matt Shaw. Ooh, I get it. I mean, I get it. Machado's still really good. I get it.
I think Westberg is just like going to be 80 or 90% of Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, I get that. So, you know what? Though? I think I'm doing the same thing as you, though. Looking at it, like I think I'm doing that. So, like, part of me wants to be like, okay, keep Shaw and Westberg, but the thing is, Westberg is better than Shaw right now. I think they're different players. Westberg has more power than Shaw, and Shaw has more speed. So they're different types of players. I trust Westberg a little more. I think that they're going to have similar batting averages. Literally, Westberg will probably hit for like 5 or 10 more bombs, and then Shaw will probably steal like 10 or 15 more bags than Westberg. So maybe if you really need steals, I could see the Shaw buy. But yeah, I'm going to keep Westberg and redraft Machado and cut Shaw, because the thing is, like, when it comes down to redraft, I'm definitely taking Machado over Shaw in redraft, right? So like you can't even argue that one just based on counting stats. Shaw's probably gonna hit like 7th or 8th or something for the Cubs this year. So yeah,
Machado's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I mean that one makes actually a lot of sense. Like at first when you said it, I'm like, oh, it's hard to cut Shaw, but like I mean that's actually the move in this instance, in this particular tier. Tier 3B, we're going to cut 2. We've got 4 guys here. We have Matt Chapman. This is, by the way, this is number 10, 11, 12, and 13 in the rankings. So Matt Chapman is number 10. Kobe Mayo, 11 at 23 years old. Jake Berger, again, because he's first and third. So he's doubly in here. I probably should have just picked one for him instead of putting him in here twice.
Right.
And then Alex, I mean, I don't know. Alex, he's already in here. We're going to leave it. No, let's actually just take him out and just do a cut one. We'll simplify this a little bit. So
I was going to cut him anyways because we already talked about him.
Yeah, cut him just because we already talked about him. All right, so we got Matt Chapman, 32, Kobe Mayo, 23, and Alex Bregman, 31. So that's 10, 11, 12. What are you doing here?
I love Matt Chapman. I think people are like still discounting what he did last year, even though he was amazing and even like chipped in, I don't know, what was it, like 12 or 14 steals or something? Like, and then he just got a Dames. Like that team got substantially better.
Mm-hmm.
And full season Helio Ramos, maybe Bryce Aldridge comes up at some point. Like, I really like Chapman. I'm buying the Giants in general. So I love Chapman. I'm going to redraft him. I'm going to keep Mayo, and I will cut Bregman.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Matt Chapman is one of the most underrated players from last year. His F scores are significantly higher than Bregman's. Bregman moving to Boston is a great move for him, right? Like, from losing the Crawford boxes, it's really hard for a right-handed pull guy like Bregman to find a comparable spot, Boston is it, because all he's got to do is bash doubles off of the green monster. He might hit 50 doubles this year. Like if Bregman hit 50 doubles this year, I would actually not be surprised. I'd be like, oh, okay. Makes sense to me because he's already a high doubles guy. So I would buy that. Like he might have a really good batting average this year, hit a bunch of doubles. Power might be down. Bregman's already a 0 in steals though. So I'm going Chapman for redraft 2. Mayo keep, and then Bregman cut. Mayo is a hard keep even though here. Like part of me, if Chapman was and Bregman were both like in the late 20s, I would probably
if either of them were 29, I would have made a different decision. I thought about that too.
Yeah, just because Mayo is blocked. And even with Mayo being blocked, he had his hit tool had regressed a little bit last year from the previous year. So like I think that he's probably like a 250 or 260 hitter with 30 homer potential, which is really good. Definitely should be starting somewhere, but it's the Orioles. So what are they going to do? Like they should have, if you were running the Orioles, they should have traded someone this year for a pitcher. They didn't do it. So
shouldn't have signed 2 or 3 of the veterans.
What they did makes no sense to me. I don't understand it at all. They could have saved money, and then they could have just traded a couple of these prospects for like a Dylan Cease or a Michael King, who the Padres were trying to offload. And there you go. But I don't know. Go figure. Here we are. So tier 4 is a 4-man tier, and we don't have Jake Berger in it, so we don't have to remove anyone. But we've got this is going to be number 13, 14, 15, and 16. We've got Braden Taylor with the Rays at age 22, Isaac Paredes, age 26, Brandon Donovan, age 28, and Connor Norby, age 25.
This is tough. I really like Norby, but I think he was probably better last year than he actually is. I don't know if that's what we should expect going forward. I think I'll redraft Paredes. I think that's pretty easy. We already talked about him though, but
no, we talked about him before, but we didn't even talk about him in the podcast. We did not talk about him as one of the players for a position. We just talked about his pull power because I talked about his spring trading.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I'm gonna redraft Paredes, and then I kind of know he's triple eligible. I don't know a lot about Braden Taylor, so you can talk about him, but I'll keep Norby and cut Donovan and Taylor.
Yeah. This is a tough one. I almost want to keep Paredes now that he's like in Houston with the freaking boxes. I just think that he's primed for a huge year this year, and I almost want to keep him.
How long is he in Houston for? Let's find out.
Probably at least 2 years, I would say. He came up with the Tigers at 22. He was pretty young when he came up. So I think he's probably got another year after this one of arbitration eligibility.
2028, he's a UFA.
Ooh, okay. So you've got
2 more years.
No, you've got 26, 27. So you've got 3 full years of Paredes in Houston. Dude, I think I'm going to keep Paredes.
Yeah, now that I know that, I'm going to keep Paredes too, and I'll redraft Norby. Boom.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better about that because he's useful, but I don't know that he's like a cornerstone dynasty player.
Yeah, so I'm keeping Paredes. I'm going to actually redraft Donovan over Norby because I feel like Donovan's safer and he's very useful in redraft. It's just your super sub because he can play so many positions. So like I'm going to redraft Donovan, keep Paredes. Braden Taylor, I'll talk about here for a second. I think I've got him ranked as like a 50 or 60 something prospect. The contact tool sucks. He's got a lot of powered speed. I basically said that he's probably going to, he could also play second. So he's a shortstop by trade, but they've got Carson Williams. So he's going to move off to second or third. Could play third, could play second. And a bunch of power speed, really toolsy guy, great plate skills, but terrible contact tool. So it's almost like, I don't know, like trying to think of a comp. Julian, maybe, I don't know, something like that.
Gorman,
play second or third. He's got more speed than Gorman. So, but yeah, terrible hit tool. So maybe, yeah, lots of walks though. So I don't know. Like I like him a lot, but the Rays also do Rays things, so he might end
True.
up in a platoon. I think, and I talked. I can't remember if this was on when I podcast with Ross, but I was like, he's probably just going to win. Brandon Lau, this is the Lau. I think he's a free agent at the end of the year. When he's gone, I think Braden Taylor kind of just pops up right into his spot. To be honest, makes a lot of sense to me. Lefty bat, similar type deal because Lau is also not a good contact hitter. He's just like a big time power hitter. So makes sense to me. Tier 4B, that's 4A. We've got 22-year-old Cam Smith, 28-year-old Alec Boehm, 27-year-old Josh Young, and 18-year-old Emil Morales with the Dodgers. What are you doing here, Raymond?
They piss me off. I'm going to keep Cam Smith. I'm going to cut Alec Boehm. That means I have to redraft Josh Young and cut Emil Morales. Boehm versus Young is interesting because it's availability and playing time with Boehm, but not a lot of production versus high ceiling, a lot of missed playing time and injuries with Young. But I'll take the risk, I guess, this late. Boehm is just like not. Remember he was the only hot hitter in April last year. Hit like 6 home runs or whatever he did, and then
he had so many RBI. He had like 40 RBI
in April, yeah, and then didn't do anything the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were trying to trade him in the offseason, so I kind of think might be some bad vibes there now. So, yeah, tiebreaker.
Yeah, I can buy that. I think you actually convinced me because I think I was going to originally redraft Boehm. But now that you brought up the vibes, like, yeah, is he really going to be like all in and excited to play with these guys when everyone is like, hey, this guy sucks in the locker room. We should move him and like get someone else who fits in better.
That's the same guy who flipped off the fans too. So,
yeah. And also, I remember Welsh, back when Boehm was a prospect, mentioned, hey, do you look at like sabermetrics and stuff like that? And he's like, no. he's like, no. He's like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just go hit. So like, I don't know if that bat's gonna. I don't know how that bat is gonna age. That's probably also why he could not adjust back to the pitchers and why he sucked after the good start. If you're not gonna look at if you're not gonna like figure out, okay, how are the pitchers beating me? And you're like, I don't care. I'm just gonna go hit. And like, yeah, you're not gonna figure it out. So yeah, I'm gonna keep Cam Smith. He's so close. I think next year he's up with the Astros. I don't think he comes up this year. I mean, he was so hot at the end of last year. It's a possibility he gets a cup of coffee. But I think he's up next year with Astros starting and mashing homers into the Crawford boxes. So I like Cam Smith. I'm gonna keep him. I'm going to then redraft Young because I was thinking about redrafting Boehm until you brought the whole vibes thing up. That makes a lot of sense. Emil Morales, I love. Welsh and I talked about how Emil Morales is basically just as good as Jesus Mate, except everybody loves Jesus Mate and nobody talks about Emil Morales. They pretty much did the same thing when you look statistically in the DSL. But again, he was in the DSL last year, so he's probably like at least 3 years away. And per my, beginning of my intro of the show when I'm doing fantasy stuff, for Dynasty, I'm thinking 3 to 5 years down the road. So if I'm like 3 years away from this guy or 2 years away from this guy, I'm losing half my time just him baking the minors. So I do have to take that proximity into effect here and why I would put Cam Smith ahead, even if I think Emil Morales in 10 years might be the better player. You know what I mean? Because he's got
so far away.
He's just so far away at this point.
He's going to be 28.
Yeah, in 10 years. Yeah. So tier 5B, this is our last tier of the podcast. This is going to be a 5-man tier for third base. We have Eugenio Suarez at age 33, Max Muncy at age 34, Noelvi Marte at age 23, steroids, Ryan McMahon at age 30, and Nolan Arenado at age 34. What are you doing with this one? Because we got a bunch of oldies, and then we've got a steroid guy.
Yeah, a bunch of oldies, bunch of similar. What the similar guys here. I'm gonna cut Suarez. He was unusable for the first half, 2/3 of the season last year, and then just was the best hitter in baseball for the last last third. So I might say like cut with an asterisk. Like I wouldn't want to own him in head to head, but in a roto league, I could see it. Like he's still got power to burn. They're gonna play him every day. Muncie, I think, is definitely my redraft. I like him. Like you said, you want as much of the Dodgers lineup as you can get your hands on. He's by far the cheapest, but by far the cheapest that will actually help you. Marte's the cut for me. Like other than prospect hype, he hasn't done anything remotely
Mhm.
remotely well in the his time in the majors. Like he's looked overwhelmed. He had the steroid thing. Like I don't know. I don't think they have a spot for him, even if Spencer Steer can't throw. So I would expect him to be in the minors, and a lot of those guys are under contract. I don't. He might be a change of scenery guy soon, which would suck. But Ryan McMahon, I guess by default, is my keep. He's the only one on the right side of 32 on this list. Ballpark is going to help. He's going to play every day. Not spectacular, but useful. And then Arenado would be my redraft. Hopefully he gets traded. Even if he doesn't, he'll be fine for fantasy. Like he's not a barn beater by any means, but 20 home runs, 24 home runs, like he'll be helpful.
Yeah, I agree. He will be helpful. I mean, he's going to get counting stats 100%. He's going to hit third or fourth for the Cardinals. And it's not like the Cardinals lineup is terrible. It's still pretty decent. You don't have a
Right.
you don't have a superstar in there, but like nobody's bad in that lineup. You have just a bunch of like pretty solid guys.
And then
And
even
it's,
the guys at the bottom can fly. So if those guys
yeah,
get on base,
yeah.
yeah.
I Victor Scott, I saw him the other day again. I'm like, it's another Victor Scott spring.
Yeah, I
Like
saw Doc.
Cardinals camp so far, JJ Weatherholt and Victor Scott have been the best players I've seen. So
Doc won't shut up about him on Twitter. You guys are like, are you guys the same person?
no. We've podcasted together before. That is scientifically proven that we are not the same person. um, so Eugenio Suarez, I'm actually redrafting. I like Suarez. And like I said, I like the Diamondbacks this year. I like their lineup. So I'm going to redraft him. I'm going to redraft Muncie just because I really like both those teams. And I think that counting stat wise, they're both going to get a bunch of counting stats. And I think both those guys can hit 30 bombs. Marte, I'm going to keep. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to just take the shot and be like,
Just hope.
just fucking throw a dart and go for it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing with Marte. And then McMahon and Arenado are the cuts. McMahon, unfortunately, like he's just like so average. Even with the Rockies bump, he's still so average. If he was on another team, like I would not, he probably wouldn't even be a starter. Just like Brandon Rodgers can barely find a job on another team. So like I think McMahon, if he was on another team, would have a tough time. But because he is on the Rockies, he's somewhat useful. Like I have him in our Carolina Cup league. I got him for like $2 as like a backup bench guy, so I'm okay with that. Nolan Arenado, like you said, like I think he's gonna put up decent stats for counting wise. Like he's not at nothing. He's probably gonna hit 260 and put up decent stats. So like he's not terrible, but I wouldn't expect a full rebound, especially in St. Louis. If he had gone to Boston or if he had gone to the Yankees or gone to a place with a better hitting park and a better lineup, but like if he had been on the Dodgers, like I'd be like so much in on an Arenado rebound, but like he didn't, and the Cardinals ballpark is not conducive to hitters, so it's going to be rough for him, I think. And it's not like it's going to be a fun time either because the Cardinals are the most mediocre team that I've seen in a while. So that's it. That's where we're at on these guys. Raymond, do you have a Raymondism for us? Because I miss those very, very much.
You tell me you don't do them when I'm not here.
Only when you give me one. Sometimes you'll give me one and I'll do it. But otherwise, no. They're only Raymondisms. They're not Timisms.
That's fair. There were only 5 players under the age of 25 who had an OPS above 800 last year. Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Merrill, Ellie De La Cruz. You want to guess the 5th one?
Elliot Ramos.
Riley Green.
Oh, Riley Green. There we go. He's so underrated. He's one of the more underrated players in baseball. And like I get it because the Tigers Stadium sucks, especially for lefty power. But he's just that good. If he was like, can you imagine how good he would be if he was on the Red Sox? Would he just be like, or if he was on the Yankees? Like, how good would he be on the Yankees?
Dude, he could hit 40 home runs if he was a Yankee.
Yeah, I honestly think he would be a 30, at least a 330 home run guy if he was on the Yankees.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's the podcast. Thanks for jumping on, Raymond. Again, follow Raymond on X at Raymond Atherton. Check me out at Fantasy Aceball and the YouTube channel. If you want to watch our beautiful faces as we've been doing this thing, you can watch us on the YouTube channel at the Tim Kanak. And you can also find over there my spring training videos, my scouting videos that are going to be coming out when I'm watching minor league games. And you can see also all the prospect pods that I just did with the prospect peoples. And you can see everybody's nice lists that way. Otherwise, you have to listen and like write down the list. Probably a lot easier to just put up the YouTube if you want to actually see everyone's lists. So that's what's up. We'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.